Welcome to hour number 2, live right here on this Friday on the early line on SportsGrid. He is Donnie Rightside. I am Ben Stevens. 2 more hours to go up until 11 a.m. Eastern time. DRS and I get you set for what you have in store this weekend. We'll talk some NBA playoff action ahead of game number 2 tonight in Madison Square Garden. How do the Knicks bounce back from a dismal defeat up by 17 midway through the fourth quarter? And can the Indiana Pacers ride the momentum of a historic comeback win in game number 1 of the Eastern Conference Finals ahead of game 2 tonight inside the world's most famous arena? It is a holiday weekend. We set the stage for Memorial Day. Chris Meany of the NHL, a new father, by the way. Congratulations to Chris. He joins us later in hour number 2 to break down our Stanley Cup playoff action. And of course, we'll take a look at what is happening around the Bigs entering Memorial Day weekend. Of course, we pay tribute to all of the service members on Memorial Day weekend. It feels American. America's pastime will be on center stage.
Exactly. Feels like I got to go watch a couple little Hulk Hogan videos here. I am a real American. Fight for the rights of every man. I mean, that's just the way it feels on Memorial Day, man. Let's get the cookouts going. Let's get the flags flying out here. And let's certainly get those winning wagers in the door, Ben. Come on.
I don't know if I can guarantee much, DRS, comparing the early line to any other sports programming that you might see, but I can say this. I promise you this will be the only show that a host sings both Usher and Hulk Hogan in about a 45-minute span. That is my promise to all of you. Let's recap a Thursday slate that featured 9 games on the diamond around Major League Baseball. DRS, congrats to your Phils. They just keep winning. They swept the Pittsburgh Pirates during rivalry weekend. They head to Colorado this week for a 4-game set. They win all 4 of those. A sweep of the Rockies. 2-0 yesterday in the finale. Ranger Suarez, sensational in Denver. Couple of RBIs that they needed, including from Bryce Harper and Max Kepler. 2-0 the victory for the Phils in what was the lowest scoring game of this 4-game set. But, Donnie, outside of the Phils winning 7 straight and expanding their lead atop the National League East, I think the main storyline is actually the team that saw another loss. The Colorado Rockies are now 8-42. You see it there. Sell the team. The paper bags already out in 50 games. 8-42 through their first 50 games this year. That is the worst record in the modern era of Major League Baseball since 1901. For a team in their first 50 games of a season.
Yeah, baseball doesn't work in Colorado. It's not the players' fault. It's not the fans' fault. They come out and show up. It's a beautiful ballpark. It's in a great setting at this point. You just can't play baseball at that altitude. And baseball whiffed. And I know they've been there since the early 1990s. They had some good seasons. But the bottom completely is falling out. And also understand this as well. You're not in a division. Maybe they can move Colorado to like a central division. Like, hey, we can have low payrolls and still try to compete. You are in an arms race out there in the NL West that you're probably not going to be able to compete at. And you might have money to spend. But once again, you see German Marquez on the mound? 1-7 on the season with a 7.66 ERA. Hey, guys, money is fantastic. Come here. You will be an embarrassment when you retire on your ERA and your wins because we don't have a good organization. No matter how well you pitch, you can't pitch below a 4 ERA. It's darn near impossible. And if you're an average pitcher, you end up around 6. Sit around the campfire with all your buddies when you're 50 years old and retire and say, hey, man, let's tell some war stories. What was your winning record? Oh, it was 300 and, 222. And then, hey, how'd the Colorado guy fare? Hey, man, a lot of money. 100 games under 500 and a high ERA, but it was worth it all the while. It just doesn't work there in Major League Baseball to have it at elevation, and this is proof. Like, this is one of the worst teams you will ever see in baseball. Now, granted, they'll win some games as they go out, but if you're on a pace to be the worst team of all time, 2 things aren't working. Baseball and elevation and your team. And also, Ben, understand this. You're a high-ranking pitcher coming out of college baseball. Yeah. Let's say Colorado's the number 1 overall pick. Hey, congratulations, you were drafted by Colorado. You might as well just go, I'm going to pull my name out and do like J.D. Drew he did back in the 90s. I'll go play in the Northern League for a year until I have to get back into baseball. And hopefully, Colorado, don't you ever pick me again.
J.D. Drew, what a throwback and a great name right there, DRS. In the Colorado Rockies, I believe the MLB draft now has a lottery, so there's no guarantee that even if they have a historically bad record this year, they get that number 1 overall pick. Again, we are seeing bad baseball the last few seasons. The White Sox last year, 41-121, the worst record ever in the modern era of MLB. Again, that's since 1901. It's funny calling it the modern era. For the NFL, that's 1970. For the NBA, that's like 1972. In Major League Baseball, it's 1901. And we are on track to even outdo how awful the Southsiders were a season ago. 8-42 through 50 games. Donnie, I read a really fascinating article earlier this week about where teams are in the early going of this MLB season. And although the Rockies are not great, at least often, even if they're not winning a ton of games, at Coors Field, they have a good offense. If you put their home offense up against everybody else because they play at Coors and at altitude, their run scoring production is top 10, top 5 most years. Doesn't mean they win every game because the road team can score a ton. And then the Rockies have to play their other 81 games away from Coors Field, but they often rank inside the top 10. This year, they're not even top 15 or top 20 to begin the season, and they were blanked yesterday by Ranger Suarez and the rest of that Phil staff.
That's the brutal part about it. You're supposed to at least go out there and have some fun and lose 8-7 every game. You're just non-competitive on a day-to-day basis. And I do bring this up because, again, it's not the ownership group to me per se, and it's not the fan base. Like, we're just apathetic. We don't like baseball here in Denver. They will show up if they have a winner. But now you're taking a look at even like free agents. Like, it's just such a quirky environment. You're not going to get the best talent who wants to go there. That's strike one. But also now you're looking at, agents saying, don't you pick my pitcher because we don't want him pitching in Colorado. No other team has to go through. Like, yeah, people get upset you have to go to the Pittsburgh Pirates. But at least if you're Paul Skeens, you're like, imagine if Paul Skeens went to Colorado. It's like, not only do we stink, but my ERA is still like, I can't even be like rookie of the year. No. I can't be up for any Cy Young whatsoever because no matter what I do, I'm at a huge disadvantage. That's the only sport and the only team that has to go through that.
Yeah, DRS, if I imagine Paul Skeens and the Colorado Rockies, it would probably look something like Paul Skeens on the Pittsburgh Pirates, who are 17-34 this season. By far the second worst record in the National League. Thankfully, the Rockies have that distinction. Speaking of Paul Skeens, GM in the Steel City, Ben Cherington, shuts down Paul Skeens' trade conversation, saying, quote, no, it's not part of the conversation at all. The Pirates finally scored 5 runs yesterday, snapping a 26-game streak of scoring fewer than 5 runs. So they won, right? They won, right? No, they lost 8-5 to Milwaukee at home.
You know what I love about this story the best is that he actually had to answer that question where most general managers be like, hey, are you going to trade Bryce Harper as a rookie for Washington? It's like, what kind of stupid question is that? I'm not even going to answer it. But the question is real right now where they're getting that much heat on their franchise to say, you have one of the best pitchers in baseball who's like 22, 23 years old, 1 year of service. And people are already asking the question, when do you trade him because your organization is so poor, you're just going to waste that player? I love that he answered it and probably answered it honestly. Like, no, we're not going to do that. We're going to pay him $1 million for the next 5 years, then sell him to the Yankees. We're not trading him this year. We'd lose all of our leverage at that point. It's wild to think about it, but I'm glad he had to be the embarrassing question to say, your top organizational prospect who's a generational pitcher, who's 1 year in, and he looks fantastic. Can you please move him so we can enjoy him the rest of his career? I love it.
Yeah, it is a very fascinating conversation that Pittsburgh already has to discuss. Paul Skeens has been in the big for less than a full calendar year already, and that is the conversation. The Blue Jays yesterday, DRS, in extras in the 11th, walk it off against the San Diego Padres. 6 consecutive L's for the Pods. They head to Atlanta this weekend, where they will take on the Braves. And on this Friday evening in the A, Ronald Acuna Jr. set to make his debut this season in 2025. Big news for the Braves to get the 2023 NL MVP back in the fold. We'll talk more about Major League Baseball, break it down from the mind of Donnie Rightside in Hour 3. Next up, we head to MSG.
We salute the brave and courageous women and men serving in the United States military, protecting our freedom. Please take time this Memorial Day weekend to honor the memory and sacrifice of our military veterans and their loving families. and those who have made the ultimate sacrifice in their service to our nation.
Boston knew they were in trouble, Tom, but the most important thing is they fed off of their crowd, and in that third quarter, when Boston could have made a run, the Knicks just put that one last run together to put the game away.
So it was good to see them, to round this all together, good to see them finally put all the pieces in place to close out the series and say, yes, we are playing our best basketball, because that's what they're going to need against the Pacers.
Betting above the rim, only on SportsGrid.
If you believe he should be in the Hall of Fame, there's, let's let him wait another 2 years. Wait, he's already dead at this point. Like, what are you waiting for? Another 2 to 3 years. He's either in or he's out. And sometimes you look at that too, Thomas, like you can't tell, the history of Major League Baseball without Pete Rose.
Frankly, the writers have some standard that they want to hold players to, which seems to fluctuate on a player-to-player basis. So he should be in the Hall of Fame, but I'm not sure how quickly he'll get there.
Pro Baseball Today, only on SportsGrid.
Two guys that can do it all.
Too much electricity this morning.
This is a good time. We're having a lot of fun.
I had to do a triple take. Ka-ching! Why? Because of parity.
I didn't mean to offend.
Yeah, it's not going to happen.
Load management is a dirty word.
Let him rip.
You know what? Circumstances provide the results.
What? How do you do this once?
Oh, Donnie, you got such a good show there.
A network that is booming.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
Live right here on the Early Line on this Friday. Before we get to Memorial Day weekend, where we will have a lot of great Major League Baseball on the diamond, here's a quick snapshot of the World Series odds at this juncture. Most teams have played nearly 50 games of their 162 during this 2025 MLB season. Not much really has changed at this moment. We had the World Series odds, and I guess they have been moved ever so slightly. There they are on your screen. The LA Dodgers plus 250 as those short favorites still, DRS, $4 in front of the New York Yankees. The big move, despite getting blanked yesterday at home and losing 7-zip against the Cleveland Guardians, is the Detroit Tigers, still with the best record in Major League Baseball at 10-1. Who's the team with the best record in the NL? That would be the Philadelphia Phillies, also at a 10-1 price. 11-1 for the New York Mets, who have that fifth best number rounding out the top five.
Yep, well, I thought we had those odds on the screen, but I guess we apparently don't as well here. But I do like the Phillies at a 10-1 price as it sits right now. The Dodgers at a plus 250. They're always going to be there, people. Just get used to it right now. It's just the way it's going to be. The Dodgers will be there in the end with a superpower team when it's all said and done. But you're all right about this. When you look at the Yankees plus 650, maybe the best team in the American League, the Phillies have been flip-flopping around with the Mets and the Braves, and that's going to happen. When the Phillies are playing a string of really bad teams, which could continue today when they head out to Sacramento, you got to pile up those victories. And if you are a team like the Atlanta Braves just trying to tread water, you can't be losing to teams like the Washington Nationals like they did the night before. And that's going to be one to watch because the Phillies, the Mets, and the Braves, they will be bouncing back and forth between each other all summer long, but just get used to the Dodgers. No matter what that record is, they will be ultra low and always be the favorite the entire way through.
And it's not like the Dodgers, although the Phillies have that best record, are much farther off, 31-19 through 50 games. A full game behind Philadelphia, who is now 32-18. Again, the best mark, at least by a half a game right now, and one full win. That's the Detroit Tigers in the American League at 33-18. So there was your snapshot of the World Series odds. Let's quickly transition now to the hardwood. In game number 2 inside Madison Square Garden of the Eastern Conference Finals between the New York Knicks and the Indiana Pacers. Of course, DRS, not only did the Pacers steal game number 1 on the road inside the Mecca, it was the fashion of which they took game number 1 in OT. 138-135, but down by 17 with just over 6 minutes remaining. Down by 14 with 2:45 remaining in that fourth and final quarter. Down by 8 with 34.2 seconds remaining. And, of course, the Tyrese Halliburton shot that we thought was a 3 turned out to be a 2, still forced the extra session, and Indiana showed that resolve to win it in OT outright as the 4.5-point dog in game number 1. So, of course, it is vital in a series we expect to be competitive for the Knicks to take advantage of playing inside MSG in this second game, and the odds makers agree. A 4.5-point spread for game 1, now a 6-point number, DRS, in favor of New York for game number 2.
And I guess if you are the NBA and you are a conspiracy theory, you're sort of putting your thumb on the scales there for the Knicks, because they opened up as a 4.5-point favorite at game number 1. Now we understand they cannot lose game number 2. And then at the same time, the NBA looking at the ratings there for OKC and Minnesota, saying, like, if we don't have the New York Knicks, we might not even make as much money as the WNBA makes, which is no money, because nobody will watch the NBA Finals. We'll watch, we'll have fun, but maybe not the masses. But if you are looking for the Knicks tonight, I said this so many times, Ben, it's not the entire game. I expect the Knicks to win game number 1. I thought they would win. I expected them to win game number 1. They didn't. Yeah. I expect them to win game number 2. But the one thing I do know is there is no way, shape, or form that arena is going to be good vibes if at the half, Ben, it's 61-56 Indiana, when you know that energy is going to be there right off the bat tonight. It's the Knicks in the first half. It's the Knicks in the first quarter. There are no excuses to not get out to a good start tonight to say, you know what? We might have had a 20 or so point lead in the last game. It's not slipping away. We're going to be up 5 at the end of 1, up 10 at the break, up 15 at the end of 3, and up 20 at the end of 4. That's what I need to see out of the Knicks tonight. But if you are looking for those guys for the Pacers to show up tonight and be the ultimate villain and taunt that arena and tell them we're not even coming back here for a game number 5, they can do that tonight. That's what I love to see. The battle, the elements, the energy in the arena, and also the villains of the Pacers saying, you thought you were actually going to win your first NBA championship since 1973? It ain't happening here. I can't wait to watch that theater play out tonight.
Listen, that playoff rivalry that really got started in the late 90s and 2000 has really continued here in this new era in the Eastern Conference. A 7-game second-round series last year where the Pacers went into the Garden and won that 7th game. And, of course, the dramatic and historic comeback that we saw in game number 1 just 2 nights ago on a Wednesday, the choking sign from Tyrese. Of course, that was paid off with the victory in OT. Again, a 4.5-point spread in favor of the Knicks in the opening game of the Eastern Conference Finals. Now up by 1.5 points, despite the Knicks' collapse in the fourth quarter and in OT. 59% of the bets in terms of the spread on the Pacers, who have been an elite underdog in this postseason. Now 6-2 straight up and against the spread, and yet the line working rather significantly to the Knicks. The idea that winning game 2 tonight, taking advantage of your home floor, is vital. DRS, we went sailing through the pregame number of 222 for game number 1, even at the end of regulation, with 250 total points, 125, 125. So the early number yesterday for game number 2 was 227 from the over-under perspective. It's now back down to 224.5. We have seen some buyback in terms of that pace. I thought there was a really interesting point made in the commentary around game number 1, that despite the Pacers trailing by 7 at the break, with how offensive that first half was, 69-62 the lead for the Knicks, that if Indiana could play with pace like this in what we expected to be a tightly contested set, they have the depth and balance. The Knicks do not. If this game is high scoring again, that's not a great recipe for the New York Knicks for the entirety of this series' success.
No, I mean, you have to come out. You have to have energy. They're going to play a ton of minutes tonight. Tom Thibodeau understands you can't go down. You go down 0-2, it's a wrap here. The Knicks might as well just start to sell off, and all those planes that those Knicks fans probably are like, hey, we're going to head to Indiana up 2-0. We'll take over Gamebridge Arena or Fieldhouse, and we'll have all those good vibes. That's going to end quickly. The energy in the building needs to carry the Knicks in the first half, but they must provide that good play.
We'll talk more about the Eastern Conference Finals next.
Did you know sports sportsbooks tend to draw up tighter bet lines for events that get even more bettors, like championship games or major matchups. My tip? Try betting on less popular sports. You might have a better shot at beating those odds. Now, go get lucky. See you in Las Vegas. Let's get lucky.
The Tigers, 31-17, Matt, on the season. They've got the best pitching in baseball, but don't look now. The Twins are now on their heels at 26-21.
The best hitters can't stay healthy. We obviously saw a situation last week where two of those guys got hurt on the same play. So that's the Twins, and I think Twins fans, I'm up in Twins country. Twins fans know that up here, and you're kind of always waiting for the other shoe to drop.
Newswire. Only on SportsGrid.
I actually like the fact that they went 7 games against a quality opponent here and still had to face adversity even in a game number 7. How are we setting up this next series where they rested Minnesota Timberwolves team taking on OKC fresh from the fight here?
They had an extremely, maybe it's just too strong a statement to say, easier pathway than people thought, particularly because of their size.
The early line. Only on SportsGrid. The game is on. The stakes are high, but the action isn't just on the field.
He's rearranging that rim. Get it inside!
SportsGrid's in-game live. Your ultimate second screen experience.
Just a little flyer, couple 15.5 point live line.
Every prop, every play, every day.
Anything can happen. That's complete chaos.
It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
In historic comeback fashion, the Indiana Pacers take game number 1 of the Eastern Conference Finals on a Wednesday night in Madison Square Garden. Of course, DRS, we expected this series to be tight. The New York Knicks entered as a minus 144 series outright favorite. Indiana takes game 1 away from home. And of course, the Pacers flip to that slight outright favorite as well, minus 154. But in the immediate aftermath of that game 1 win, the Pacers were minus 168. A little bit of buyback on the New York Knicks. And if you thought the Knicks were going to win this series entering the opening game of the Eastern Conference Finals, now getting New York with a plus money price as the series dog could be very, very enticing.
No, it certainly can, and that's your buy-in point right now, right? And also, take a look at game number 1. There are visuals that you look at that, outside of the numbers, can make decisions for you. Let's just say, Ben, the Pacers were up 10 at the break. Say the Pacers were up 15 at the end of 3, and the Pacers won the game by 16 points. You go, man, that might be a bargain, minus 154. I thought the Knicks were the better team all the way through until they collapsed late in that game. So now if you're saying, all right, we understand that there's collapses and they do happen, but who's the better basketball team outside of injury? Is it still the Knicks? Instead of paying that minus 145 for the series price before game number 1, you now get a plus 130. Now, granted, you are down 0-1. You lose this. You can light your money on fire if it's 0-2 heading back to Indiana. The Knicks aren't going to come back from that. But I do think the Knicks are going to have a strong surge tonight. And at that minus 154, because if the Knicks win tonight, the Knicks will be the favorites once again in the series. And the expectations would be, Ben, you're going to split those games in Indiana. So you come back, best of 3, Madison Square Garden. You should be able to win that series if you are the Knicks. Now, none of that, as I said, makes any sense or difference if the Knicks do lose tonight, because then the expectation is a split in Indianapolis, but it's 3-1. The series is over at that point here. But if you think the Knicks are viable and will win this game tonight, I would take them at the plus 130 price. Forget about the minus 6. Just take them at the plus 130. You'll get an advantageous number heading into game number 3. And again, I expect the Knicks to win at least one game in Indiana.
And I do think you're getting some value there as well, DRS, for the Knicks now as the underdogs on the series spread, getting a game and a half. If we go 7, that bet cashes. If the New York Knicks win this series, that bet cashes. So there are a multitude of ways to find a winning wager right there on that price. As you can see, shortest now being game 6 in terms of the total duration of this series at plus 172 does check out because Indiana, for the moment, has taken home floor advantage. And of course, a game 6 would be in Indianapolis, giving the Pacers an opportunity to clinch on their own home floor. But DRS, we expected this series to go 7 before game number 1. That price was around plus 178. It's not all that far off right now at plus 184. Let's dive in to what we are seeing here for game number 2. Both of the guards that we expected to lead the way for both clubs, sensational in game 1. Tyrese Halliburton, 31 points, 11 dimes, and of course the game tire that we thought was a game winner at the end of regulation. Clutch moment for Halliburton so far on this playoff run for Indiana. The clutch player of the year, though, in the association, Jalen Brunson, who did pour in 43 points for New York in game number 1. What will both players do for an encore DRS here in game number 2?
Yeah, I'm pretty high on Brunson again, getting into the 30s, because I do think if you have to win this game, you give it to your best ball control guy, and that is going to be Brunson. He'll take a ton of shots, 20-plus this game. He should be into the 30s. It's not necessarily, I don't think Halliburton can get to 21 points, but you had that big game number 1, and the Knicks are understanding, like, we have to really clamp down on defense, which is why that total, after having a crazy high number in overtime on a total score, is a little bit down here with the betting public. That's the reason behind it, because you don't actually like, hey, Knicks got to get their offense going. No, the Knicks got to get their defense going, and they understand that as well. Defense is where it starts, which means maybe a slower tempo, which means the correlation would be the Knicks have a good offensive performance and a very good defensive performance. So for me, if I'm just looking at the two superstars, I'm still going to take Brunson over in a must-win game. He's going to shoot 20-plus times in that game. I expect him to get to 30. But Halliburton, I think, will be keyed on. He gets off a good game, 16, 17, 18 points, and stay under that. But if he, again, let's just say he goes 25-plus points, 12 assists out there, I don't know if the Knicks win that game. So if we're looking at shutting down Halliburton, which is the head of the snake, if you will, that's where the focus has to be. Over on Brunson, under on Halliburton for me.
20-plus field goal tries for Jalen Brunson in 9 of the 13 playoff games now for New York. Indiana won in game number 1. They have won 9 of their 11 games so far on this postseason run. In 8 of the 9, 6 players have reached double digits, and of course, that includes the depth. Pascal Siakam went over his points prop in game number 1. Miles Turner was great to start, and of course, Aaron Nesmith, 8 of 9 from 3 with 30 points. That depth for Indiana is huge. We'll look at the props a little bit later on the early line.
We salute the brave and courageous women and men serving in the United States military, protecting our freedom. Please take time this Memorial Day weekend to honor the memory and sacrifice of our military veterans and their loving families, and those who have made the ultimate sacrifice in their service to our nation.
I'm not saying this thing is scripted, but damn it, they put those two teams on the first weekend of the basketball season for a reason, because they were expecting some kind of fireworks. They got it. Did Angel Reese overreact? Probably. Did Caitlin Clark have to stare it down? Probably not. There's enough blame to go both sides. But guess who doesn't care? That's the WNBA.
Betting above the rim, only on SportsGrid.
The Tigers, 31-17, Matt, on the season. They've got the best pitching in baseball, but don't look now. The Twins are now on their heels at 26-21.
The best hitters can't stay healthy. We obviously saw a situation last week where 2 of those guys got hurt on the same play. So that's the Twins, and I think Twins fans, I'm up in Twins country. Twins fans know that up here, and you're kind of always waiting for the other shoe to drop.
Newswire, only on SportsGrid.
You are a Pirates fan. I don't think you've got a reason good enough for me to be wearing Met stuff when the Mets are playing the Pirates right now. I don't think I'm gonna go, okay, I see it at the end of your explanation.
I'm gonna put it on Vinny. I'm gonna put it on all the Mets fans. The Pirates won 2 in a row. They fired the manager over the weekend. A new era of Pirates baseball has begun.
Game time decisions, only on SportsGrid.
Welcome back to this Friday, live right here on the early line on SportsGrid. He is Donnie. I am Ben. Game number 2 of the Eastern Conference Finals tonight inside Madison Square Garden. The Indiana Pacers, in historic comeback fashion, stealing game number 1 on the road in MSG. Tomorrow night is game number 3 in our first change of location in the conference finals round around the association in Minneapolis. The Timberwolves down 0-2. Head back home trying to keep their season in this series afloat in what you could describe as a must-win or can't lose game number 3 on a Saturday night in the Twin Cities. Oklahoma City up 2-0 remains a favorite, DRS, for game number 3, but this would be the shortest number in favor of the Thunder in any of their 14 playoff games thus far. They have been at least a 5-point favorite in their previous 13. Of course, they have covered, winning by 15 plus in each of the first 2 games in the Western Conference Finals. Now a 3-point spread in favor of Oklahoma City on the road for game number 3 on FanDuel, a total at 218. Donnie, I think you sum up game 3s very well. It's a kitchen sink game because if you get in an 0-3 hole, there is very, very little light at the end of the tunnel. You are going to fight, but your promise of winning that series is virtually gone. So at least to give yourself some hope and optimism, a Game 3 victory is important. And with how short this spread is, that's what Minnesota needs to do. Win outright to keep the Western Conference Finals rolling along.
Yeah, it's not like, a lower seeded team. Like, hey, the number 1 seed's down 0-3. Well, they're the better team. Maybe there's a chance they can win 4 straight games. This is the opposite. This is the best team in the NBA that's up 3-0 on you. And your expectations are not only we're going to win this game tonight in game number 4, but then again, win the next 3 games, which a couple of those will be on the opposing team's home court. It doesn't happen. And that's what we always talk about in the NBA or any sport, particularly there. The series doesn't start until a road team wins on the opposing team's home court. You are going to need the Minnesota Timberwolves to win this game and hope to stave off that, oh, yeah, now we take a stranglehold on this overall Western Conference Finals. But you're all giving them a puncher's chance. It's not 8.5, 9.5 points that you might think if it was OKC at home up 2-0. You're on your home court. The expectations are you're a good basketball team. You got here by beating some quality opponents, and you are home, which means you're supposed to win those games. It's hard winning regular season games against bad teams on the road because it's not your environment. You're going to have a sold-out crowd in Minnesota. It's going to be amped up, ready for this game. Anthony Edwards got up off the mat. They didn't win the game, but at least like, hey, you know what? I'm in this series now. I dropped 30-plus points. I shot a ton. Let me just clean up that three-point line. If I shoot 10 times, let me make at least 4 of those, and maybe our fortunes will change. And also understanding you need to get off to a great start as well as I talk about the New York Knicks at home tonight. Same thing with the Minnesota Timberwolves. You can't be down 8 points at the break going, got them right where we want them. Let's have a big second half. That doesn't work against a team that's better than you. You have to shock them. You have to beat them in the first quarter, be up at the break. Don't let them make those necessary adjustments, which they did in game number 2 on their home court. You make the adjustments, and you extend the lead into the third quarter. And that's my viewpoints on that game tomorrow because for Minnesota, they're getting a lot of respect on that line. Only, let's just say, 2.5, 3-point favorites right now for OKC. But you got to prove your mettle early on. Don't let this become a runaway because if it is, we don't even need to tune in for game number 4.
Yeah, there's not a third quarter line out just yet, but that might be the most crucial 12-minute period of this game, DRS. The Timberwolves had a 4-point lead at the break in the opening game in OKC. It was the Thunder absolutely dismantling the Timberwolves, overwhelming them in that second half, winning the second half by a combined 30 points. Last night, OKC started to pull away at the end of the opening half, taking an 8-point lead, 58-50 into the halftime break. But they won the third quarter by 14, and maybe even more critically, DRS, they ended the third quarter on a 25-8 run to take a 22-point advantage into the fourth quarter. Minnesota tried, but they never did cut that deficit to single digits in those final 12 minutes. The Timberwolves as an underdog so far in this postseason. 3 games against the Lakers in the opening round, the first 2 games here in the Western Conference Finals, now 2-3 straight up and against the spread. And one thing that has really stood out to me about the Thunder's performances, not the fact they're up 2-0, not the fact they have that commanding lead with home floor advantage, being the NBA's best team all year long, but something that was maybe a slight cause of concern, or at least something that was slightly missing for the Thunder early on in their opening 2 rounds. Oklahoma City wasn't covering. They won their first 2 games against Memphis by at least 19 points, but then were tested by the Grizz in the final 2 games of that series, had not covered DRS except once in the opening 6 games of their second round series against Denver. Just 2 covers in their last 9 games entering these Western Conference Finals against Minnesota. They have won each of the first 2 games of this set by 15 points. They are now 6-7 against the spread in their 13 games as a favorite, booked as a favorite in every game so far in this postseason.
Yeah, this might be a great game, too, to take a look at for game number 3 with how electric that atmosphere is going to be in Minnesota, where maybe you get in a live wager at this point saying, you know what, I like the Timberwolves in this game, but if they start off a little bit slow and I can get them at +5, +6, +7 early on, you know they're going to have to give it their best, because the most embarrassing thought process would be OKC just comes in and absolutely blasts them. 15, 20-point win in their own building and controls the entire length of the game. But also, you might be able to get an added advantage if you like OKC, where you have to weather that storm early. Maybe it's a 9-point lead for Minnesota after 1. Maybe it's a 12-point lead for Minnesota at the break. You know OKC is going to roll like, just didn't go in our favor here for game number 3. We'll see in game number 4. This seems like an unbelievable chance to get in with some live wagering, depending on what you thought about the process before the game even started.
Yeah, no doubt about it, DRS. That is absolutely the case. And we have seen the changes of the series odds. Oklahoma City now a -2,200 favorite to win this series outright. They were -375 before it started, -750 entering game 2 last night. So because of how dominant the Thunder have been, we now expect this series to be over rather quickly. 5 games is +176. And a 4-game series sweep is +194 on the FanDuel Sportsbook. We'll see what Minnesota has to say about that in game number 3 tomorrow night. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, the NBA MVP, who got to put the trophy high up into the OKC sky for his home crowd before game number 2, and then delivered like the most valuable player, a 38-point performance to lead all scorers in game number 2. He scored 31 in game 1. His points prop remains steady at 31.5. If you don't want to bet the over, that's fine. I wouldn't recommend trying to fade SGA at any point with that points prop of 31 and a hook.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy. Like, the one part I would want to fade on that points prop would be the 1.5 3-point shots and maybe take it to the under. Just not prolific from 3-point range. I don't think he made a 3 in game number 1. I think he made 1 in game number 2. So that's one of those where it's like, hey, man, how does a guard or an elite scoring guard drop 30-plus points in a game and not get more than 2 3-point shots? It's almost like the throwback, like, does his game sort of correlates to a DeMar DeRozan. Like, yeah, I'll score a lot of points, but it's not going to come from the 3-point line at this point. 6.5 assists will get other guys involved. That might be the one that you might want to take towards the over, because as we understand, you have to try to shut him down, which, again, he's the MVP. Everybody comes into a game, hey, if we shut Shai down, we have a really good chance to win that game. Like, nobody does, because he's a great player. But if you run more players at him by saying, all right, it's a road game, and as I've said repeatedly, Ben, the secondary guys play much better at home than they do on the road. Hey, Chet, you might have to drop 27 points in this game, or other players might have to step up off the bench where you're not going to let Shai actually beat you, which then leads you. He's a team player. He's an MVP guy. If that shot's not there, you pass it off, you get 7+ assists, and you cash in that ticket. Just thinking outside the box, where the game plan is not going to be from Minnesota. Let Shai get his, and we'll shut everybody else down. Yeah, that doesn't work.
8+ assists for Shai Gilgeous-Alexander so far in the first 2 games of the Western Conference Finals, over that number of 6.5 in 7 of the 13 playoff games for OKC. Anthony Edwards, a 32-point performance last night, shot the ball a ton more, was not overly efficient from 3-point range, 1 of 9. We'll talk more about game number 3 with JY a little bit later on in hour number 3, DRS. I would love a combined points prop for Anthony Edwards and Julius Randle to get like 50+ combined, because to me, both stars performing is key. We'll go to the ice up next.
We salute the brave and courageous women and men serving in the United States military, protecting our freedom. Please take time this Memorial Day weekend to honor the memory and sacrifice of our military veterans and their loving families. and those who have made the ultimate sacrifice in their service to our nation.
I'm not saying this thing is scripted, but damn it, they put those two teams on the first weekend of the basketball season for a reason, because they were expecting some kind of fireworks. They got it. Did Angel Reese overreact? Probably. Did Caitlin Clark have to stare it down? Probably not. There's enough blame to go both sides. But guess who doesn't care? That's the WNBA.
Betting above the rim. Only on SportsGrid.
The Tigers, 31-17, Matt, on the season. They've got the best pitching in baseball, but don't look now. The Twins are now on their heels at 26-21.
The best hitters can't stay healthy. We obviously saw a situation last week where two of those guys got hurt on the same play. So that's the Twins, and I think Twins fans, I'm up in Twins country. Twins fans know that up here, and you're kind of always waiting for the other shoe to drop.
Newswire. Only on SportsGrid.
You are a Pirates fan. I don't think you've got a reason good enough for me to be wearing Met stuff when the Mets are playing the Pirates right now. I don't think I'm gonna go, okay, I see it at the end of your explanation.
I'm going to put it on Vinny. I'm going to put it on all the Mets fans. The Pirates won 2 in a row. They fired the manager over the weekend. A new era of Pirates baseball has begun.
Game time decisions. Only on SportsGrid.
The conference finals round of the Stanley Cup postseason on the ice rolls on this Friday. A recap of last night in Raleigh. We look forward to game number 2 tonight in Big D between the Stars and the Oilers, which means we welcome on the NHL's Chris Meany bright and early here on this Friday morning to set the stage for tonight and the rest of the weekend and the rest of the conference finals round. Before we dive into any of the action, a sincere congratulations to Chris Meany joining us here on this Friday as he is a proud new father. Chris, congrats to you and your family. And we appreciate you making the time, my man, on what I'm sure has been many a restless night the last few weeks.
Hey, Ben and Donnie, really appreciate it. Thank you so much for that. Happy to join you, as always, talk a little puck. But yeah, it's a brand new baby girl, Brooklyn Rain Meany. I feel like I haven't slept for about a month, but I'm on cloud 9. You know, I got the late shift guys, you know, the sports and all the time, watching late hockey. I already had her in a hockey onesie, and we were watching some hockey last night. So appreciate it, guys, and ready to rock here today.
Just in time for the conference finals round and the Stanley Cup final to come after that. She understands the importance of playoff hockey. Chris, as we look at our one game last night in Carolina, game number 2 of the Eastern Conference Finals between the Canes and the reigning Stanley Cup champs in the Florida Panthers, and it's a story that's been very similar the last few years for Florida against Carolina in this exact round. The Panthers take game number 2 and a 2-0 series lead with a 5-0 win last night in Raleigh. Of course, Chris, it was Florida who swept Carolina 2 years ago to get to the Stanley Cup final. They have taken both games so far in this year's rendition of the Eastern Conference Finals on road ice. What has Florida figured out to have Carolina's number in the Eastern Conference Finals?
Yeah, and they seem to have everybody's number in the Eastern Conference. I mean, they're on the verge of going back to the Stanley Cup final for the 3rd straight season. And sometimes you just have a team's number. You know, I think about Toronto and Ottawa when we discussed that opening round. The Senators had always had issues with the Maple Leafs. But yeah, it's just the way that the Florida Panthers play, and it's extremely impressive. I mean, this is a Carolina team that leads all teams in the playoffs in shot attempts at 5-5. They've been among the leaders in that category over the last 3 or 4 seasons. They control the pace. They put a lot of pucks towards the goal. But at home, when you're down 1-0 in the series, They had 2 shots on 12 attempts in the first period at 5-5. They had 4 shots in the second period on 13 attempts. So 6 shots on goal at 5-5 for a team that just generates so much. You have to give a lot of credit to the Florida Panthers. They're just so deep, guys. I don't think enough people talk about Sergei Bobrovsky, but we've been talking about the Panthers here on the show for the past few weeks and what they can bring to the table. And last night you saw some of their other guys who had been quiet, like Carter Verhaeghe, pick up 3 points. All of a sudden he has 13. Sam Bennett, 9 goals now, tied with Mikko Rantanen for the most in the playoffs. Kachuk, who nobody's really healthy at this time of the season, but hadn't played since Four Nations faceoff, didn't really look himself in the opening 2 rounds. All of a sudden, he has 8 points. He's chipped in here. That trio last night was fantastic. Then you look at their third line, Luostarinen, Marchand, and Lindell, 35 points in 14 games in the playoffs, 11 goals from your third line. They're just extremely deep. I'm not surprised that they're up 2-0 in the series, and they're going to be a juggernaut in the final.
Yeah, 5-0 last night. I mean, lights out first period, 3-0 here. But Bobrovsky needed 17 saves last night to come away with the shutout, which certainly is disparaging here for the home team just trying to get back into it. But as we look forward in the series, it's not over. You got to win 4 games in a 7-game set here to move on to the Stanley Cup final. If we look at the FanDuel Sportsbook right now, the odds certainly in Florida's favor here, Chris. Minus 670 as a price point. The dog price on the Hurricanes is plus 470. I'm going to ask you this. The chances Carolina can come back, and also, what does Carolina have to do to get back into the series to sort of flip that mojo?
Yeah, I mean, they'll have to stay disciplined for sure. They can't put the Panthers on the power play. Sam Reinhart left last night's game. We'll see his status moving forward. That would be a big loss for the Florida Panthers, although we're talking about how deep they are. They're going to need better goaltending, right? Frederik Andersen was essentially perfect over the first 2 rounds of the series. But again, it to me, when I watch these 2 teams play and Carolina, cruise to the 3rd round, there's a difference between the Atlantic Division and the Metro Division. There's a lot of good teams in the Atlantic. A lot of people were picking Tampa Bay to go on a run. Florida took care of them. Leafs pushed them to 7. But, Carolina kind of cruised through the first couple of rounds with no disrespect to Washington and a banged-up Devils team. So they're going to need better goaltending. They're going to need their big guys to show up, like Andrei Svechnikov, who had a couple of careless turnovers in the opening period. One led to the goal from Gustav Forsling. So, yeah, it's basically going to have to be perfect, Donnie, to get this done. You're right. They're not out of it. I'm kind of counting them out of it. If you want to back them, it has to be Game 3, right? They were a good road team. This season, they've been a good road team. They're well coached. Again, they're very sound at 5-5. They're going to have to be perfect, but if they're going to get back in this thing, it's going to have to be Game 3 on the road in Florida.
Yeah, the champs head back home to Sunrise tomorrow. They are a minus 140 home ice favorite to take that commanding 3-0 series lead. You saw it there in the graphic for the Eastern Conference Finals. The most likely outcome, as the odds makers on FanDuel see it, is Florida pulling off the quick 4-game sweep at a plus 200 price. Now, it's not minus money, but it is the shortest option. The Panthers swept the Canes in 2023 in the Eastern Conference Finals. In fact, Chris, as we saw last night, the Hurricanes losing their 2nd consecutive game here in the Eastern Conference Finals, 14 straight losses for Carolina in the Conference Finals round. 2009, 2019, and 2023, as we alluded to, the Hurricanes swept in the Eastern Conference Finals. Let's head out to the Western Conference Finals. The Dallas Stars and the Edmonton Oilers. Dallas scored 5 straight goals in the 3rd period to take the 1-0 series lead on home ice. Quickly here, Chris, we'll dive even deeper into this game on the other side of the break. But you see the total at 6.5. Can we expect a high-scoring series all throughout?
Absolutely. Yeah, there's no question where I have questions about Carolina's offense drying up, and you just had some great numbers there, Ben, over the past few years in this round in particular. But these 2 teams are stacked offensively, and one thing right now not going the Oilers' way is their penalty kill. They've allowed 14 goals on the penalty kill, 62% PK rate, which is by far the worst in the playoffs. Last year, if you remember, en route to 1 game away from winning the Stanley Cup Finals, they only allowed 4 power play goals. Their PK operated at 94%. So both teams are loaded on the PP. They're stacked up and down the lineup, defensively and offensively. It's going to be a fun one again tonight.
We'll get Chris's prediction for Game 2 in Dallas up next.
buy or sell, Devers will be traded this season. Let's also not forget that there's $300 million on the table due to Devers, which eliminates him from, what would you say, like 17 teams?
Oh, I would think more than 17, maybe 27. Oh, that's a joke. But how many teams could afford him? All right, 5, 6. How many teams needed a third baseman who can't play third base? You know, how many people want to deal with his attitude? He hasn't come off looking good in any of this. Whether you believe he should have anyway, he doesn't look good at this. Will he be traded? No, he won't be traded. The salary alone makes it highly unlikely. He's a great hitter. All right, no doubt he can hit. But other than that, there's too many between the money and the attitude and no really position for him here. He's not getting dealt anytime soon.
Buy or sell, if the season ended today, Hunter Brown would win the American League Cy Young Award.
Hunter Brown has been fantastic. All right, the guy that Craig's teasing, by the way, is Tariq Skubal of the Detroit Tigers here, who's certainly right up there with them. Max Fried for the Yankees has had a fantastic season. They finally lost a start where he pitched in against Seattle the other day. They'd won every start. He's been fantastic. The season ended today. Would Hunter Brown win the American Cy Young Award? I certainly couldn't argue it if he did. That being said, he's going up against Skubal, who won it last year, going up against Fried of the Yankees. My guess is that he'll need a year. You understand what I'm saying? He needs a year before he can get that kind of recognition if he's tied with somebody. If he's clearly ahead, then I think he would win here. But as of right now, would he win it? I'm going to say no. I'm going to say it would be probably Max Fried.
Fantasy Sports Today. Weekends starting at 8 a.m. Eastern Time. Only on SportsGrid.
Game number 2 of the Western Conference Finals in the Stanley Cup playoffs tonight in Dallas between the Stars and the Edmonton Oilers. The Oilers looking to get back to the Cup final. The Dallas Stars trying to take a commanding 2-0 series lead on home ice. The NHL's Chris Meany here with us for a second consecutive segment. So, Chris, let's dive even deeper into Game 2 tonight in Big D. The Stars winning Game number 1 with 5 straight goals in the third period. A slight home ice favorite for Game number 2 tonight. Chris Meany, prediction time. Does Dallas take that commanding 2-0 series advantage, or does Edmonton even this up before heading back home for Game 3?
I think the Oilers are going to even this up, but it's certainly a difficult series to call because these two teams are built very similarly. I really like where Dallas is at. Another team that we've talked about, guys, over the past few weeks and how deep they are. You know, a shout out to Mikael Granlund. Of course, Mikko Rantanen's going to get all the headlines, and they picked him up at the deadline, and he leads the playoffs in points with 20, and he's tied with Sam Bennett in goals with 9. But Mikael Granlund, who had a 2-point game in Game 1, has 5 goals and 9 points. He was an under-the-radar deadline pickup by the Dallas Stars in a trade with the San Jose Sharks. And this is a guy that has 2+ shots and 7 of 9. So look for him to hit the score sheet tonight, maybe plus money for a point, maybe get 2 or 3 shots. But I really did like the Oilers game at 5-5 overall. I mean, Leon Draisaitl and Connor McDavid are always going to wow you. But they had 15 shot attempts, 12 scoring chances between them to lead the Oilers. They had 5 points combined. They've really made a lot happen in that game. And I expect them to have their way with the Dallas Stars throughout the playoffs. It's other guys that are going to need to step up, and in particular, it's going to be Stuart Skinner. He has to be much better in this game. I know a lot of people are taking a look at maybe Calvin Pickard getting back into this series, but Stuart Skinner was great in the previous round against Vegas. He had a couple of shutouts. He really stole the net back, so he's going to have to outplay Jake Ottinger, who has been phenomenal here in the playoffs. But I do like the Oilers to get back into this thing tonight. I do believe this is a series that's going to go 7. And I think at the end of the day, with Game 7 potentially, well, it would be if we get 7 games in Dallas, and they've been so dominant in those clutch situations like Pete DeBoer. So, but I like the Oilers to get back into it tonight. You talked about goals, Donnie. I think we'll see some offense tonight.
Ooh, we like to see that certainly from Edmonton here. They are an underdog now in the series price here after losing game number 1 on the road at a plus 155. The Stars in a commanding position at minus 190. Would love to see a 2-0 series before they even get back in to Edmonton to try to sort of, you know what, put the pressure on the Oilers. But if we are looking at the players that really need to step up, the Conn Smythe, love to see it. The best players in the biggest moments. Who's going to take that trophy? Mikko Rantanen currently right now at a plus 360 price, followed closely now after the shutout last night, Chris, from Sergei Bobrovsky at a plus 370 price. Then McDavid, Ottinger, Barkov, and Draisaitl behind them. Any favorites for you right now that you're seeing here in the Conn Smythe?
Well, I do believe it's going to be a Dallas-Florida final. It's a final that I've wanted to see over the past 3 years. I do think we'll see that. You know, Sergei Bobrovsky's number a little bit shorter there, certainly intriguing. You know, he's a guy that could get 3 or 4 shutouts the rest of the way, and that could be a little bit shorter. But how about that number for Sam Bennett at 16-1? I talked about him earlier. Now tied with Mikko Rantanen, 9 goals. Barkov's going to have a shutdown type of role, you know, in the Stanley Cup final. So he's going to be up against Mikko Rantanen, his countryman, or if it's the Edmonton Oilers, he's going to have his hands full against Draisaitl and McDavid. But also looking at that board, guys, you know, Leon Draisaitl's number is very appealing. As much as I'm sitting here talking about Dallas and giving love to the Florida Panthers, you know, you see McDavid there at plus 550. But Leon Draisaitl has just as many points as McDavid, 19. He's a goal scorer. Like, it's not like McDavid isn't, but this is a guy that scored 50 plus multiple times, and you know, he can get 6 or 7 in a series, and that wouldn't surprise me at all. So that number, given the fact that they lost the last game, is become a little bit longer. So I don't mind that. But yeah, I mean, Sam Bennett certainly, you know, checks a box for me, but there's no doubt Rantanen and Sergei Bobrovsky should be favored to win the award at the moment.
Yeah, it is really interesting to see that 15-1 number on Leon Draisaitl. Edmonton expected to be in this series. They were a pre-Western Conference Finals series favorite before game number 1, and then, of course, losing that 3-1 lead entering the third period. Entering this round, Connor McDavid at a slightly shorter price than even Mikko Rantanen, who is having a sensational Stanley Cup postseason. And give it up for the netminder and playoff Bob, Sergei Bobrovsky, now even a shorter price with his team up 2-0 than that of McDavid. Chris Meany, the proud new father, will let you get back to your child care duties, and we appreciate your time here on this Friday. Have a wonderful weekend. Enjoy all the playoff hockey.
Thanks, guys. Really appreciate it. Good luck with all the plays tonight, and we'll talk soon.
Thanks so much, Chris. We appreciate it as well. Hour number 3 on the other side of the break here on the early line. Let's talk some baseball as we get into our third hour. Up next.
We salute the brave and courageous women and men serving in the United States military, protecting our freedom. Please take time this Memorial Day weekend to honor the memory and sacrifice of our military veterans and their loving families, and those who have made the ultimate sacrifice in their service to our nation.
Boston knew they were in trouble, Tom, but the most important thing is they fed off of their crowd, and in that third quarter, when Boston could have made a run, the Knicks just put that one last run together to put the game away.
So it was good to see them, you know, to round this all together, good to see them finally put all the pieces in place to close out the series and say, yes, we are playing our best basketball, because that's what they're going to need against the Pacers.
Betting above the rim, only on SportsGrid.
If you believe he should be in the Hall of Fame, there's, let's let him wait another 2 years. Wait, he's already dead at this point. Like, what are you waiting for? Another 2 to 3 years. He's either in or he's out. And sometimes you look at that too, Tom. It's like you can't tell, you know, the history of Major League Baseball without Pete Rose.
Frankly, the writers have some standard that they want to hold players to, which seems to fluctuate on a player-to-player basis. So he should be in the Hall of Fame, but I'm not sure how quickly he'll get there.
Pro Baseball Today, only on SportsGrid.
Two guys that can do it all.
Too much electricity this morning.
This is a good time. We're having a lot of fun.
I had to do a triple take. Ka-ching! Why? because of parity.
I didn't mean to offend.
Yeah, it's not going to happen.
Load management is a dirty word.
Let him rip.
You know what? Circumstances provide the results.
What? How do you do this once?
Oh, Donnie, you got such a good show there.
A network that is booming.
The Early Line, only